All right, it's been pretty clear that we're Stephen King fans of one sort or another. I mean, you haven't really read any of the books,
Oh, squids
but
don't read.
yeah, but you have seen the movies,
Mm-hmm.
and we did an entire series on the works of Stephen King. Check
Mm-hmm.
that out if you haven't seen it.
7-part epic.
So yeah, epic, monstrous epic, directed by Ridley Scott himself.
Yep.
And so check that out for sure because it's gonna win some awards or whatever. But anyway, this one is gonna be a little basic. I'm just gonna run down my top 10 favorite Stephen King novels. Now I haven't read all of his work, but I've read a good like 90 to maybe 95% of it. And I haven't read the Bill Hodges trilogy, so we're gonna exclude that because I haven't read it. Duh. And but other than that, I pretty much read everything. I am excluding novellas because they're not full size novels, and I am excluding short story collections because, well, there's a shitload of short stories in there. So this is strictly novels. I was tempted to bring in the novellas because some of them are now published as novels, but I decided not to. Otherwise, I would have included such wonderful pieces as The Long Walk, Apt Pupil, or The Mist. However, those are novellas originally published as novellas or in short story collections, so we're going to exclude them even though they are now published as single novels. So anyway, let's get down to the nitty gritty. What do you say?
Go!
All right, there you go. I like the staring into space part.
Yeah.
That was my favorite. All right, speaking of favorites, so we're counting down the favorites here. I like that segue. I didn't.
Nope. Shit.
My number 10 is Pet Sematary, one of his classics from what people consider the golden age of Stephen King when he was still high on cocaine and churning out monstrous fucking scary tales by the second. And rightfully so, man. This is a novel that he almost threw out because it terrified him so much. And were it not for his wife, it would have been thrown out. But basically it deals with death, loss, and what we would do to bring someone back. Long story short, there's a fucking pet cemetery where if you bury something, it comes back. And lo and behold, after he proves it by bringing a pet cat back, and then some big ass accident happens. Oh, that's good. That's professional as fuck right there.
Flip is freaking texting me. Right,
Stephen King.
Oh, shit.
Well, anyway, sorry about that horribly untimely phone call. But anyway, the main character's kid dies. And guess what he does? Yeah, he takes it to the pet cemetery. That's right, He takes him to the pet cemetery and brings him back, and things are just not what they used to be. Great novel, full of terrifying moments. If you're a parent, this is probably not something you want to read. But then again, maybe it is.
I like that cat.
Yeah, that's a pretty good cover.
Yeah.
Original cover, pretty cool.
That's my input because I haven't read the book.
I like the cat.
Mm-hmm.
My number 9... I happen to be of the belief that Stephen King is in a new golden age. Ever since Cell, he's written consistently great novels that are really strong, and he's just on a new creative role. And this one got a lot of flack from people. People didn't like it. People kind of spat on it.
People suck.
But yeah, fuck those people. My number 9 is From a Buick 8. Which again kind of deals with loss in a way, but it's about a man trying to reconnect with his father, who was a
car.
No, he was a policeman, and he goes to the barracks, and while there, he sees this kind of decrepit old police car that's stuck in a hangar. I'm sorry, in a garage, and he slowly becomes obsessed with it, only to find out that this car is much more than it appears to be. Enter bizarreness, kind of Lovecraftian touches, and just weird from left to right. It is King, Fast and Furious. We're used to King novels being gigantic. This one is lean and mean, and it's good.
There, because cars.
Yeah, that was not intentional.
Would you say that's one of the best car horror novels?
You could say top-notch car horror, folks. Okay, so that's my number 9. My number 8 is the now classic Misery, which deals with obsessive fans and how they were relentless. I mean, this was a real personal book.
Very timely nowadays.
Yeah, really. This was a real personal book for Stephen King because he had been kind of going through that. Weirdo fans that would invade his privacy and, so this was his way of kind of ironing that out, coping with it a bit, and he went to the extremes. This created a real loyal adaptation for the most part. That was a fantastic movie as well. So if you're not a big reader, just see the movie. It's pretty much the book with some changes, but still fucking fantastic.
I saw it.
Great,
It was good.
great novel. So that's my number, whatever the fuck number that was, number 8. My number 7 is going back to his golden age again. This was his second novel, if memory serves me right. And we're talking Salem's Lot, which, look, there's probably the most written about, most fictionalized horror villain is the vampire. I mean, there are novels and movies and comics and everything is, there's dozens of them, millions of them, trillions, gazillions possibly. But this novel stands out still to this day as one of the best vampire novels ever written. Right up there with Dracula and the rest, Interview with a Vampire, what have you. This one still stands out. Take that, scale of vampire horror and bring it to small town America and see what you get. Fantastic book, eerie, weird, and just that slice of American pie with a little rotten fucking apple thrown in.
That was good.
My number 6 is, again, one of his more recent novels, Lizzie's Story. And this one was built around the idea of loss. And throw in this kind of curveball of what if the person that you knew all your life, when that person passes away, what if they were more than you knew them for? Even if you were intimate with them, even if you were fucking, in this case, married with them, what if the font of everything they were was rooted in something much more than you can imagine, much more bizarre, much more otherworldly? This is almost a poetic novel in a lot of senses. It has what I like to call floral imagery because it blossoms in your head the way he just describes everything. But it basically has a woman whose writer husband dies and she ventures into his world, literally finding out that the inspiration for everything that he wrote came from somewhere that's very real, yet very otherworldly. Fantastic novel, one of his best, obviously, as it is on my list. Which brings us to number 5. Again, a perennial King classic. One of his magnum opuses, as we have established in our Stephen King video series. The man doesn't write an opus, he writes opie.
Yep.
And this is one of his opuses.
Opie.
The Stand. Take a end of the world story, take a dash of Americana, a slice of Christianity, mix it in with some nuclear fears and all that you can think of, viruses, whatever you fear about the end of the world, and then add a wide swath of characters with a variety of motives and personalities, and you get one of the great American novels. It's the best description for this was A Great Tale of Dark Christianity. It was one of the reviews, and that's a great description of it. Good versus evil, basic, fundamental King, and also, I mean, isn't that the literal thrust of every fucking story? Good versus evil, black and white, what have you. This is one of the greats for a good reason. Check that sucker out. That's my number 5. My number 4 is this came during a time when Stephen King was kind of like his popularity. I mean, he's always been popular, but his popularity was kind of waning in terms of the mainstream populace. He'd kind of fallen out of favor a little. Whatever, people were kind of like, he's not as great as he used to be. He needs a bit of that coke to get better again. But as it turns out, the man did not need coke because he wrote Desperation, which does not reek of desperation. In fact, it's fucking top-notch King. Taking us out of Maine, his usual, haunt for his tales. He takes us all the way to Nevada as these people are stranded in desperation, Nevada, and in the hands of a weirdo sheriff called Collian Trajan, which is the vessel to an ancient god called Tack. Weirdness ensues, genuinely spooky moments, Fantastic novel, man. Horrible movie was made out of this. Do not judge this novel by the movie. Just read the novel. It will not disappoint, not in the least. So we're getting down to the final three. My number three, this is probably what a lot of people would put at their number one, even if they haven't read it, because I found out recently with the new movie coming out that a lot of people that claim that they read this novel, yeah, a lot of people claim that they read this novel. I mean, they didn't really read it because they didn't know what the fuck they were talking about. But if you have read it, you probably still would put it at your number one because a lot of people think this is his masterpiece. This is another opus.
This is another longin.
This is another longin.
Opie.
We're talking Stephen King's It. Who doesn't know about Pennywise the Clown? Who does it? And see, that's the real misfortune because people really base their idea of it on the TV miniseries, which is not a very good adaptation of this.
It's pretty good.
Book. It's fine on its own.
Yeah.
As an adaptation of the book, terrible.
Watch our videos on that.
Yeah, we did a video on the adaptation, the TV miniseries, and our thoughts on it now that we've rewatched it all these years later. So check that out. But as regards to the book is far superior to the product that was created for the small screen. Excuse me. And this is truly a coming-of-age story mixed with just about every terrifying scenario that a kid could think of. And then bringing in threads of cosmic horror. You know, the Lovecraft influence is really felt here. But it's not that or that or that. It's everything in one. A fantastic fucking book. Rightfully so, it belongs in a lot of people's number one slot. It's my number three, but I mean, I'm kind of loath to put it there because really my top three are going to be my number one. But this is at 3 right now. I love it. You should love it too. You should check it out. If not, I guess be lazy and watch the movie. There's a new movie coming out. Hopefully I'll be closer to the book. My number 2, I actually don't have a copy of. I read that one when I was in prison. It had just come out when I was locked up. And it is 11/22/63. This is a much more there's not so much, actually there's really little supernatural elements or scary things going on in this. This is a much more subdued King. It is much more a human story about people. It just so happens, like in most King novels, there's some extraordinary circumstance at play. In this case, a man literally finds a time slip that takes him back to the late 50s. And he exploits this at first for his business, but then begins to think, what if I could use this for a better good? What if I could change history for something better? And he gets the idea in his head, what if I could stop the assassination of JFK, one of the watershed moments of our history, our modern American history? Good idea, he thinks, and he decides to go whole hog, live in the past for about 10 years and actually change history this way. And you're literally living with this person, kind of like with his other books like Insomnia. You literally are living with old people for like 400 pages. You know, he does something very similar here, but you are so in love with these characters, and King is so fucking great at it, just making you grow enamored with the people that he creates. They're so alive that you are so invested. You know, a perfect example of this is Dreamcatcher, a novel that I found abominably bad. But I couldn't. Sucks. Yeah, the movie's terrible, even worse than the book. But the characters always kept me going. I wanted to know how they would react to things, why they were, why they did, why this, why that. The characters in King novels are always top notch, and in 11/22/63, they're at their finest. Beautiful characters, simple. He doesn't go whole hog and give you 10 billion characters like in The Stand or It. He just keeps it simple, and he is writing at full strength. And it's just something you got to experience. Fantastic novel.
Oh, we haven't seen the show.
Yeah, the show apparently changes. So I'm really afraid of watching the show because I love the novel so much that the changes that I heard that are in it are really disappointing to me. And I kind of want to wait until I've forgotten the novel enough, I guess, to kind of experience it. But this brings us to my number 1, and again, to emphasize that I think that Stephen King is in a new golden age. My number 1 is not from his old golden age, or not even from his middle years, but it's actually one of his most recent offerings, and I'm talking Revival, which is his ode to the horror masters of old, namely people like Lovecraft, Shelley, Blackwood, etc. Classic horror writers or authors of the weird and supernatural from the early 1900s and late 1800s. And he does this by balancing all their styles atop his own style. Again, you're more riveted by his characters and more than the weird circumstances. But the weird circumstances, of course, add that spice that we come to love from Stephen King. The story of Revival is, again, about loss and how we deal with it. Something that he has, as we can see now by these descriptions, visited time and again. And it's something that is extremely relatable to human beings. What's worse than losing someone?
People's gonna die.
People gonna die. And King always knows how to deal with this in a variety of ways and touch on that. This deals with a reverend, a faithful man, a man of God that loses his wife in a horrifying accident. And man, that scene alone in the book is so vivid and so heart-wrenching, gut-churning that you feel this man's loss. Thankfully, we've not experienced a loss of that magnitude, of that, or I should say, of that horrifying nature, and an accident of that nature. But when you fucking experience this guy's pain, you feel it. It's so well written. And this man loses his faith and vanishes. And we follow a character that met him as a child. And we follow the character as he grows. And time again throughout this character's life, he comes across the Reverend again. And each time the Reverend has progressed steadier and steadier into madness and mad science, to say the least. He is hell-bent on proving that his wife didn't die in vain, that she has gone somewhere. He doesn't believe in God anymore because God has he thinks God cannot exist in a world where his wife and kid died so horribly. So he is hell-bent on proving, however, that they are somewhere safe. And my God, the extents that he goes to touch on Shelley, but then when he finally finds out, if you are familiar with Lovecraft, you'll know how devastating the ending is. It is fucking cosmically bad. But fuck, it is a great book. I can't recommend it enough. I know a lot of people didn't dig it, but man,
wow.
I mean, if you know where King is coming from, you know why this book is a phenomenal success. And again, this is a lean and mean one. I mean, he just lays it all on the line and goes, this is what's up. I know how these writers write, but this is them through me, and I'm going to show you something big. So anyways, folks, this has been my personal top 10 favorite Stephen King books. Tell me what your favorites are. Tell me why I'm wrong about where I place these, if if you think something's better than the other. And if you've read some of his newer work, like the Bill Hodges trilogy, let me know what's up with that. Is he good? I mean, I'm going to find out anyway, but fuck it, right? Give us a like, give us a share, give us a subscribe if you think we're worthy of it. If not, well, then thanks for watching anyway. This has been Ahab, and this is the Goon Take, and we're signing out.